What if every decision you've ever made wasn't really a decision at all? Not your choice of partner, not the moment you decided to speak up in class, not even the fact that you clicked on this video. What if each of those choices was already encoded, waiting for you inside the quantum wave function of the universe, long before you felt the spark of freedom in your mind? That sounds like science fiction, right? But here's the unsettling part. The more we probe into the foundations of quantum mechanics, the more it looks like free will might be nothing more than an elegant illusion. An afterimage produced by your brain to make sense of a decision that was already written into the fabric of reality. Think about it. Quantum theory tells us that every particle exists in a superposition of possibilities, until observation collapses it into a specific outcome. But what if that collapse doesn't happen because of your choice, but because the outcome was predetermined in the wave function itself? Then, you choosing is not the cause. It's the story you tell yourself as the predetermined outcome unfolds. This isn't just abstract philosophy. Experiments on quantum entanglement and delayed choice measurements hint that causality itself, the arrow of cause and effect, might not work the way we assume. And if causality breaks down at the quantum level, then so might the very idea that our consciousness is the true author of our lives. So the question becomes, are we free agents navigating an open future, or passengers on a track already drawn, where our so-called choices are simply checkpoints we were destined to pass? We usually imagine free will as the power to choose among several possible futures. You wake up, you decide coffee or tea, you weigh the pros and cons, and in the end the decision feels like it comes from you. But here's the twist. In the quantum picture, all those possible futures already exist inside the universal wave function. Every particle, every atom in your brain, follows a probability distribution described by that wave. The act of choosing doesn't create the future. It simply reveals one that was already contained in the mathematics. Let's break this down. The wave function is not just a vague cloud of possibilities. It's an exact mathematical object that evolves with perfect determinism according to the Schrödinger equation. From the cosmic scale down to the electrons firing in your neurons, that evolution unfolds with no gaps, no breaks, no need for a magical moment of choice. In other words, before you felt the desire for coffee, the entire wave function of the universe already encoded that event as part of its deterministic flow. So why do we feel like we are choosing? That's where decoherence comes in. When your brain interacts with its environment, quantum superpositions collapse into definite outcomes, at least from your perspective. But collapse isn't a personal decision. It's a natural, inevitable physical process. Your sense of agency may just be the conscious narration layered on top of what quantum mechanics had already resolved. There's another wrinkle. The famous delayed choice experiments show that particles can behave as if a decision made in the present changes what happened in the past. If the universe works like that at the most fundamental level, what does it say about your morning decision to drink coffee? Did you really decide in the moment, or did the wave function already include your choice before you even reached the kitchen? And if your brain's quantum processes are locked into this larger mathematical script, then free will becomes not a gift, but a story, a narrative generated after the fact to give your consciousness the illusion of authorship. But here's the real puzzle. If your choices are written into the wave function, does that mean your future is already sealed as well? Or is there still room for something genuinely unpredictable to break through? We grow up with a powerful intuition that I am the one steering this body and mind. I think, I decide, I act. It feels so obvious, so immediate, that questioning it seems absurd. But physics has a way of tearing down the things we take for granted. Take a simple decision. Say you're scrolling through 2 playlists, and you decide which one to play. To you, the choice feels alive, spontaneous. But neuroscience already complicates this. Experiments show that the brain registers the decision milliseconds before you consciously feel it. Your "I chose this" sensation may actually lag behind the neural processes that determine your action. Quantum mechanics takes this even further. If the wave function already encodes all possible configurations of particles, then your choice isn't a fresh creation at the moment you make it. It's the endpoint of an equation that has been running since the beginning of the universe. You're not steering the ship. You're watching the wake and imagining you're in control of the rudder. Common sense tells us free will means openness. You could have done otherwise. But in the quantum view, could have is misleading. Sure, the wave function contains many possible states, but once decoherence happens and you observe an outcome, the others don't vanish by your decision. They follow the same mathematical rules that determined which one you experienced. Your awareness doesn't select them. it just receives the result. Even the multiverse interpretation doesn't necessarily rescue free will. If every possible decision you could make actually splits into parallel realities, then your consciousness didn't create a unique outcome. It just rides one branch. That's not freedom. That's inevitability, multiplied. And here's the irony. The stronger your feeling of choosing, the more likely it is just a story told by the brain after the quantum dice have already rolled. The sense of agency could be like watching a movie with a slight delay. By the time you think you've chosen, the outcome was already baked into the script. This doesn't mean you're a puppet controlled by some external force. It's stranger than that. You are the wave functions unfolding. Your decisions are not imposed from the outside, but neither are they authored by a separate you. They are simply the way the universal equation plays itself out through the body and mind you call yourself. So if free will is this deep illusion, then the question shifts. If I am not the author, then what exactly am I? To really test this idea, we need evidence. Not just abstract speculation, but a ladder of experiments and theories that strip free will down to its quantum core. Let's climb it, step by step. Step 1. Neuroscience cracks. Before we even get to quantum mechanics, the cracks in free will show up in the lab. Benjamin Libet's famous experiments in the 1980s revealed that the brain shows readiness potentials, electrical activity preparing for action, milliseconds before subjects consciously decided to move. More modern brain scanning techniques push this delay even further, showing hints of decisions seconds before awareness. The conscious mind seems to arrive late to the party, narrating a decision it didn't truly initiate. Step 2. The deterministic wave function. Quantum mechanics looks random, but the underlying wave function evolves deterministically according to the Schrödinger equation. That means the probabilities that shape every particle, every neuron, every spark of thought are already unfolding with mathematical precision. What feels like your spontaneous leap of choice is, at root, the natural outcome of a law-bound system. Step 3. Delayed choice experiments. Physicist John Wheeler's delayed choice setup showed that a particle's past behavior, whether it traveled like a wave or a particle, could be influenced by a measurement made in the present. If present decisions affect past outcomes, then causality itself isn't what we think. This opens a bizarre possibility. Your choice today might not just be predetermined, but retroactively consistent with the universe's history, as if the wave function was weaving coherence across time itself. Step 4. The free will loophole in Bell's theorem. Bell's theorem, one of the most famous results in quantum physics, depends on the assumption that experimenters are free to choose their detector settings. But what if they're not? If those choices are themselves predetermined by hidden variables, the entire structure of local realism collapses differently. Some researchers have tested this by using light from distant quasars, emitted billions of years ago, to set detector choices, trying to close the free will loophole. The fact that such experiments are even necessary tells us something chilling. Our very ability to make a free measurement may be an illusion. Put all 4 steps together, and a picture emerges. From brain scans to cosmic light, from deterministic equations to retrocausal experiments, free will seems to shrink with every layer of inquiry. But here's the kicker. If free will collapses under science, what replaces it? Are we forced into a bleak determinism? Or does quantum mechanics hint at a stranger kind of freedom, one we haven't yet learned how to see? If free will is an illusion, then the consequences ripple far beyond physics. It doesn't just shake how we see particles or probability. It threatens to rewrite how we see ourselves. Think about responsibility. Our justice systems, our moral codes, even our daily relationships rest on the assumption that people could have chosen differently. If someone lies, cheats, or hurts another, we believe they decided to do so, and that choice makes them responsible. But if quantum mechanics is right, if their decision was already encoded in the unfolding wave function, then blame and praise start to look more like storytelling devices than truths. This isn't just a cold mechanical determinism. It's subtler. Your life, your sense of self, your story, all of it could be the emergent surface of a deeper mathematical inevitability. That doesn't mean your experiences aren't real. It means they might not be authored in the way you think. Philosophers wrestle with this tension. Some, like Daniel Dennett, argue for compatibilism. The idea that even if determinism is true, free will can still be real in a practical sense. After all, your choices still emerge from you, your brain, your values, your history. Illusion or not, they remain meaningful. Others reject this as wordplay, insisting that if you couldn't have done otherwise, Free will in any deep sense simply doesn't exist. Critics of the quantum illusion view also point out that randomness doesn't equal freedom. Even if quantum events introduce unpredictability into your brain, that's not the same as true agency. A random coin flip inside your neurons isn't you choosing, it's just noise. So both determinism and randomness fail to rescue traditional free will. And yet some thinkers flip the script. They argue that the very strangeness of quantum mechanics, with its superpositions, entanglements, and retrocausal hints, might point to a form of agency beyond our current categories. Maybe choice isn't about a conscious ego pulling levers, but about being part of a universe where possibility and actuality are woven together in ways we barely understand. Here's the shockwave. If free will is an illusion, then the freedom we cherish may not lie in isolated acts of choice at all. It may lie in how we interpret our place in the grand equation, in how meaning arises even when authorship dissolves. But if that's true, then the future of science won't just challenge free will. It might force us to reinvent the very concept of being human. The question of free will isn't staying in philosophy classrooms or physics labs. It's heading straight for our future. And the technologies we're building may be the ones to expose just how fragile our sense of agency really is. Start with neuroscience. Brain-computer interfaces are advancing fast, allowing machines to decode patterns of thought before we're consciously aware of them. In some labs, algorithms can predict with alarming accuracy which button you'll press or which word you're about to say, seconds before you do it. Imagine a world where wearable devices track your brain states and forecast your decisions like a weather app. Would you still feel like the author of your life when your next choice could be displayed on a screen in front of you? Now add quantum computing. These machines don't just calculate faster, they follow the rules of the wave function itself. A sufficiently advanced quantum AI could, in principle, simulate patterns of brain activity at the quantum level, revealing whether decisions really emerge from deterministic flow or quantum randomness. If such an AI told you your next decision before you made it, would you believe it? Or would you cling to the illusion of freedom even in the face of prediction? Then there's society. If governments or corporations harness predictive algorithms based on brain data, they could anticipate not just consumer choices but political ones. Elections, markets, even revolutions might shift from arenas of choice to fields of statistical inevitability. The slogan of democracy, "The people have spoken," could sound hollow if the people's decisions were already written into the wave function from the start. And yet, the future doesn't have to be bleak. Understanding free will as a quantum illusion might open new ways to think about responsibility and compassion. If people act not out of true freedom, but out of inevitability, then judgment could give way to empathy. Punishment could shift toward rehabilitation. Society might evolve to treat actions less as moral failures and more as outcomes of universal laws. But the deeper question remains: if we can predict choices, model consciousness, and trace every decision to quantum inevitability, then what happens to the very idea of a self? Are we preparing to discover that identity itself, the I behind the choices, is nothing more than another illusion riding the wave? So let's bring this back to you. Not the abstract universe, not the physics equations, but your lived life, moment to moment. What does it mean if your free will is a quantum illusion? At first, it sounds crushing. You might imagine yourself as a passenger strapped into a train that was set in motion billions of years ago. Every decision you make is just the train gliding along the track. But if you sit with the idea a little longer, it starts to feel different. Because even if the track is written in the wave function, you are not separate from it. You are not the prisoner of the script. You are the script unfolding. Think about the relief hidden in this. How many times have you replayed regrets in your head? The job you didn't take, the person you didn't call, the word you wish you hadn't said. If free will is an illusion, then regret softens. You didn't fail to choose differently. The path you walked was the only one ever available in the universal equation. And strangely, that can bring peace. Relationships also look different under this lens. When someone hurts you, you might see their action not as a malicious free choice, but as an inevitable expression of causes reaching far back into physics itself. That doesn't erase the pain, but it opens the door to compassion. If no one is the ultimate author, then blame becomes less about punishment and more about understanding. Even creativity takes on a new light. Maybe the music you write, the story you tell, or the invention you dream up was never yours in the independent sense. But that doesn't make it meaningless. It makes you part of something vast. the wave function expressing itself through you in a unique and unrepeatable way. Instead of shrinking your importance, it weaves you into the deepest structure of reality. And here's the strange paradox. Knowing your choices are illusions doesn't stop you from feeling them. Tomorrow you'll still wake up and wonder what to eat, what to say, what to do. The illusion is so convincing that life continues as though it were real. In fact, maybe the illusion itself is what makes human life possible. A story we live inside, even if the universe already knows the ending. So here's the final question. If your freedom is an illusion, does that make your life less real? Or does it make it even more extraordinary that an illusion can feel this alive? Maybe the most unsettling discovery of all is that life feels exactly the same, whether free will exists or not. You'll still pause before making a choice. You'll still feel the tug of hesitation, the rush of decision, the story of, I chose. That feeling doesn't vanish just because quantum mechanics whispers that it may be an illusion. But here's the perspective shift. If your choices are illusions, they are still your illusions. They are how the universe experiences itself through you. The wave function doesn't just roll forward in cold equations, it blooms into music, laughter, conflict, tenderness, everything that makes life human. The fact that all of this might be predetermined doesn't make it empty. It makes it miraculous that inevitability can feel so alive, so unpredictable from the inside. So instead of asking, am I free? Maybe the deeper question is, what does it mean to live fully, even if freedom is a story? If regret softens, if compassion grows, if creativity feels less like possession and more like participation, then the illusion of free will isn't a weakness. It's the very structure that lets us live with meaning. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a crowded street at night. Neon lights flicker, voices overlap, strangers brush past. Every step, every glance, every choice, already written. Yet in that moment, you still feel alive, present, awake. Maybe that's enough. Maybe the gift isn't control, but experience. So I'll leave you with this. Do you believe this quantum idea changes everything? Or is it just science fiction? Tell me below. Your view might change someone's mind.